Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. Work from home impacting sick days and infringement on employees' rights. Murders on the rise in St. Mary. And later in sports, Nicholas Peran has been named West Indies Limited Overs captain ahead of Netherlands series. I'm Shane Masters. Here are the details. Two workers' unions are this afternoon making an appeal to employers to respect workers' rights to sick days during the work-from-home era. This following concerns from workers that some employers are not allowing them to call in sick because they are working from home. Sandy Williams reports.
Since the COVID-19 pandemic, work from home or remote working has become integral to the new way of doing business. It was first introduced to the workplace last February when Prime Minister Andrew Holness announced a new strict work from home order for public sector employees, and the private sector then followed suit. Primarily, the move was geared towards limiting the spread of COVID-19 and to facilitate work during lockdowns. But after the government relaxed all measures under the Disaster Risk Management Act (DRMA), some businesses continued with the work from home policy. There are now concerns that work from home has made it harder to take sick days. It's something the Jamaica Confederation of Trade Unions and the Jamaica Civil Service Association have taken note of.
There seems to be a notion among some employers that you are at home, so it means that, it's fair game, open season, and therefore things like the, leave of absence do not apply. And that is the furthest thing from the truth, because all work from home does is change the physical location of the workplace.
If the supervisor calls the person when they are not well, they are actually violating the individual's entitlement for sick leave. And it's something that the employee must remind your supervisor that, remember, I'm off, I'm actually sick. Notwithstanding that I'm home, I am actually sick and I am not able to function.
President of the JCSA, O'Neill Grant, says employees have a right to report supervisors and managers who refuse to grant them sick days while working remotely.
If the supervisor behaves vindictively, the employee has further rights to report that vindictive behavior because they can show a pattern that it has now become something that the supervisor has been meting out to them as a result of them reporting that supervisor. And the staff orders for the public sector does say that if a supervisor is found to be practicing victimization and abuse, that supervisor can be dismissed as a manager, not applying their managerial authority properly. They can be dismissed.
President of the JCTU, Helene Davis-White, says employers should establish a clear understanding with workers before implementing new policies like work from home.
So that, the playing field can be level and that the persons who are involved on both sides will recognize that what are the imperatives and be able to work through how those things are going to be dealt with before actually implementing any such policy.
Sandy Williams, TVJ News.
Gunmen again struck on St. John's Road in Spanish Town, St. Catherine this morning, leaving a taxi operator dead. About 6 o'clock, 57-year-old David Bartley drove out of his home at 31 St. John's Road when gunmen sprayed bullets on his vehicle. Residents found Mr. Bartley slumped around the steering wheel of his white Toyota Probox motor car with bullet wounds. He was taken to hospital where he was pronounced dead. The latest murder followed two separate fatal shooting incidents yesterday morning and Sunday night in the area. The police in St. Mary are reporting an increase in criminal activities since the lifting of measures under the Disaster Risk Management Act, DRMA. Head of the police in the parish made the disclosure during a crime forum last week. Criminal elements are running rampant in St. Mary. Superintendent of Police in charge of a parish, Bobette Morgan Simpson, says while there has been a reduction in some of the major crimes, murders continue to increase. Up to last Tuesday, there were 16 murders in the parish compared to 2 in the corresponding period last year. Superintendent Morgan Simpson says majority of the homicides stemmed from disputes. She pointed to 2 cases. One involved an altercation between a father and a son, and a cousin intervened and stabbed the son. In another case, a man from Gale in the parish was murdered after his sister and mother were physically assaulted by a man. It's understood that the man went to the attacker's house where he met his demise.
You don't really know how to really get to these people to say that, it really doesn't make sense. Because going to prison for committing murder of your own cousin really don't cut it. Leaving your house to go to somebody else to confront them and end up dead. How does that make sense? But people don't seem to be learning because we keep getting these type of murders which is just so senseless.
Superintendent Morgan Simpson also noted that there have been deaths over parking space. She says these murders could have been avoided if persons were interested in resolving their disputes.
COVID would have locked down the country for just about 2 years. And what we find coming out now, or what will happen, is that we will end up with some accusatory crimes.
In the meantime, she's cautioning residents to be wary of robbers. She also noted the trends that are now being used by criminals. One such is a white car with flashing lights which traverses through the parishes of St. Mary, St. Anne, and Trelawney.
We have no white car, no white police car with flashing light in St. Mary. We don't have any. So if you see a white car with flashing lights stopping you, do not stop. Do not stop. Okay? Because you could be setting up yourself to be robbed.
She's also imploring persons who are doing large cash withdrawals to seek the assistance of the police, as there has been an increase in people being trailed from the bank and being robbed. A St. Andrew community plagued by violence is seeing improvements after police decided to take another approach to tackle crime. As you'll hear in this report from Cody and Barrett, sporting events are being used to reduce violence.
For years, communities in Harbour Heights, Harbourview, St. Andrews suffered from gang violence and rivalry. But instead of curfews, lockdowns and surveillance, the police decided on a peace initiative. Football. The sporting event is now being used to quell violence and bring the communities together through socializing. And according to Inspector Jacqueline Pinnock, it's working.
You had gang rivalry where persons from some end of the community could not have gone to the other side of the community. With this football competition, you see where persons who would have not seen each other for years due to the crime were able to see each other and greet each other. You see persons from the warring fractions greeted each other well. And as a result of this, I know that this will have a positive impact on our crime situation in the Harbour Heights area.
Last year, a total of 16 murders were recorded, but since the start of this year, only one murder attributed to gang violence has been recorded so far. For the residents, competitions between the church, police, and communities have brought them closer.
The football thing here, a long time it go on in the community. You see me, I have a lot to get back the youth them together. You understand? So we love it. You see me, I want to see more things like them thing happen in the community.
And business operators are also benefiting.
You have community divide up where who up the sun now come down here, so who around the sun now come because a gang few, the place divide up. So getting everybody together now, it's better for me, because who never used to come can come. So me used to sell $10, I can sell $20 now, and me always contribute back to the community. So it helped me to help the community.
Councillor for the Norman Gardens Division, Jacqueline Lewis, explained that over time, the community has seen growth in the way its residents deal with disputes on and off the field.
First, we saw some aggression between players on the field where they were kicking each other, but the referee came in and put a stop to it. So now, the last match that we played, we had no violence at all. I think the referee issued 3 red cards and yellow cards before, but now we only had 1. So we can see that this is working. This initiative has worked.
Still, the police are making this appeal to those who continue to disrupt the community.
There are persons in the community who we as a police, we are aware that doesn't want this peace. However, we just want you to know that where you don't want the peace, the police will intervene.
Cody and Barrett, TVJ News.
And it's time for a break here on the Midday News. Stay with us. More stories when we return. Welcome back to the Midday News. Motorists who travel through Highgate St. Mary are renewing calls for something to be done about the congestion in the town. There have also been complaints about the amount of goods trucks offload to various businesses in the town.
Yeah, that is a contribution to go them up park. No one do that for them park otherwise. I'm gonna see building a business place them not have no back way of parking going.
Okay.
Yeah, so basically only another road they could have built somewhere.
Some of the truck man they want to move out of the place, brother. The truck man, the goods truck man.
Now, announcements were previously made to allocate times for delivery trucks to offload. However, months later, the issue remains. Mayor of Port Maria, Richard Query, says plans are still in place. Now, he added that 3 spaces for delivery trucks to park will be provided and only 3 trucks will be allowed to offload at a time. Jamaica's COVID-19 positivity rate has risen to 23.8% amid the presence of a highly transmissible Omicron BA2 variant. The Health Ministry says 89 COVID cases were confirmed yesterday from 2,216 samples, and hospitalizations from COVID-19 have further increased to 37, up from 28 on Sunday. One of the patients is severely ill while 2 are in critical condition. Meanwhile, Jamaica's COVID-19 death toll increased to 2,969. 2 more deaths were reported by the Health Ministry. They comprise an 89-year-old man from St. Catherine and a 69-year-old man who resided in Kingston. And with the Business Minute, we go to Cody and Barrett.
In the world of business, the Jamaica Stock Exchange, JSE, has partnered with the Ghana Stock Exchange, GSE, to expand the markets of both countries to investors. According to Managing Director of the JSE, Marlene Street Forest, this move will further cement the objective of strengthening linkages and improving the relationship with our diaspora.
This is also in pursuit of the initiative to the benefit of both Ghana Stock Exchange and the JSE, because we feel that we can work together to ensure that there is wealth creation, there is a development, further development of our market from frontier to emerging and global.
And in business internationally, pharmaceutical giant Pfizer has reported a 77% increase in earnings during its first quarter. That's more than $25 billion compared to the same period last year. Pfizer's revenue growth was driven by $13.2 billion in COVID vaccine sales in the quarter and $1.5 billion in sales for its oral antiviral treatment, Paxlovid. And that's it for the Business Minute. I'm Cody Ann Barrett.
Time now for the top regional and international stories with Sandy Williams.
In the region, the Association of Caribbean Media Workers, ACM, has warned that the environment within which journalists in the Caribbean region operate is becoming increasingly perilous. In a statement marking World Press Freedom Day, the regional media umbrella group urged Caribbean governments and their domestic allied institutions to take all necessary steps to ensure that journalists are not targeted with the intention of revealing the identity of confidential sources. Equally, journalists and media houses are being advised to put in place the required measures to prevent, detect, and block intrusions to their privacy and ultimately their software. On the international scene, millions are facing the threat of tornadoes in the Great Plains as critical fire danger intensifies in New Mexico. An outbreak of at least 7 tornadoes turning deadly when 3 University of Oklahoma meteorology students were killed in a crash on their way back from a storm-chasing trip in Kansas. A new threat of strong tornadoes and large hails is looming over the Great Plains through Wednesday. Meanwhile, in the southwest, it's a race against time during peak wildfire season. Fueled by powerful wind gusts, the Hermit Peak and Calf Canyon fire is evolving. The fast-moving flames are now creeping dangerously close to the town of Las Vegas, New Mexico, where evacuation orders are now underway. And those were the top regional and international stories. I'm Sandy Williams.
And to a developing story on the international scene, U.S. Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts has confirmed the authenticity of a leaked document which says the country's top court is poised to overturn the 1973 decision that legalized abortion nationwide. He has asked the Marshal of the Supreme Court to launch an investigation into the leak of a draft opinion, saying that the work of the court will not be affected in any way. The leaked document was published last night by political journalism company Politico. It sets off immediate condemnation and calls for action from leading liberal, medical groups and democratic leaders and sparked protests outside the Supreme Court building. And we head to a quick break. When we come back, Renata Brown will have your Midday Sports Report.
Welcome back. It's now time for your Midday Sports. I'm Renata Brown. Now, Nicholas Purran has been confirmed as West Indies men's one-day international and 2020 international captain. Following the international retirement of Karen Pollard, Purran will take over the captaincy for the West Indies ODI and T20 teams after being Pollard's deputy over the last year. The appointment will include the ICC Men's T20 World Cup in 2022 and the ICC Men's Cricket World Cup in October 2023. Shea Hope has been recommended to stand as vice-captain of the ODI team. Purran has already captained the West Indies men in Pollard's absence, leading them to a T20 International Series win at home against Australia in 2021. The left-handed wicketkeeper batsman has 8 half-centuries and an ODI century to his name. He has also scored 8 T20 International half-centuries for the West Indies senior men's team. He first burst onto the cricket scene representing the West Indies under-19 team at the 2014 ICC Men's Under-19 World Cup, smashing 303 runs from 6 matches. His first outing as captain will be the 3 away ODIs against the Netherlands, and this on May 31, starting May 31, which form part of the ICC World Cup Super League. In football, Cavalier had a 2-0 win over Harbour View in the Monday night fixture in the Jamaica Premier League at the Anthony Spalding Sports Complex last evening. Nicoche Murray gave Cavalier an early lead after scoring in just the 6th minute before Colin Anderson doubled the lead in minute 42. Now, earlier, Waterhouse ensured they stayed in touch with the leaders Dumbarton FC after a 1-0 win over Malines United at the same venue. Keith Simpson got the all-important goal for Waterhouse in the 9th minute. The win means Waterhouse moved to 36 points, just 2 behind leaders Dumbarton FC. More football. Jurgen Klopp says Liverpool will have to be ready to suffer in their Champions League semi-final second leg against Villarreal. Despite a 2-goal advantage, an own goal and a Sadio Mane strike gave Liverpool a 2-0 win at Anfield last Wednesday. The Reds have been European champions 6 times and last triumph in 2019. Liverpool will be without forward Roberto Firmino because of a foot injury, although he will travel with the squad to Spain. The Reds have already won the Carabao Cup. They will play Chelsea in the FA Cup final and are 1 point behind the Premier League leaders Manchester City as they aim for an unprecedented quadruple in English football. And finally, DeAndre Ayton scored at 25 points as the Phoenix Suns took an early advantage in their NBA playoff against the Dallas Mavericks. Devin Booker supported with 25 points, while Chris Paul chipped in with 19 points as the favorites went 1-up in their best-of-7 Western Conference semifinal. Luka Doncic scored 45 points for Dallas as they lost 121-114. In the Eastern Conference opener, the Philadelphia 76ers struggled without the injured Joel Embiid as the Miami Heat swept to a 106-92 victory. Tyler Hero scored 25 points from the bench as Miami pulled away in the second half with 5 players finishing with double-digit points. And that's it for your Midday Sports Report. I'm Renata Brown. It's back to you.
Thanks, Renata. And that's the Midday News. I'm Shane Masters. Join us at 7 for Prime Time News. On behalf of the news, sports and production teams, have a good afternoon.